Well, as you can see, there's two very important guests this week. One of them is a pony. Thank you for bringing that on board, Trolls. It's the beginning of season 2, so welcome everybody. Trolls, how are you and your pony doing?
Spectacularly hungover, thank you, sir.
Hungover like a pony rather than hung like a pony. Okay, and Fred.
I'm if you ditch the over part, it's about the same thing.
No, it isn't.
No, it isn't.
No, the pony disagrees.
But I am doing very, very well, and I am happy to be back.
Excellent. Right. Well, we should get straight ahead and introduce our guest, who has managed to get up in the morning, which is something that I couldn't have done this morning because it's a Sunday. We're going to welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, please welcome at this time the mouth from the south, the game forger from Georgia, the master podcaster, celebrity interviewer extraordinaire, live from Tech Jives, the man who brought Space Quest fans hope, completing a Kickstarter of ambitious scope, despite the interference from an anti-pope dope. He just got a chicken-based sci-fi horror game greenlit on Steam, and we're as confused as you are by that. He is not the third guy from Andromeda, but he is the third most important living pope, Chris, the Space Pope.
Woo! Yay!
Yay! The pony applause.
Yes,
Pony
thank you
applause.
for that amazing introduction, man. That's awesome. But who is the second most important living pope? Oh, wait a minute. Maybe the last one? Wait a minute, I thought there was 3 popes still alive.
Yeah. Ex-Benedict, the last pope, is still actually alive. He just retired, which is something you do very rarely without dying.
That's right, yeah, because
the last
John has
pope
passed away already, so I guess that would make me the third.
I didn't even look at the
there with the popes.
Let's spend most of this episode ranking popes.
Yeah.
Add a pope.
Sounds like a great plan, actually.
It's like, you ever heard of X Factor? We're going to do that, except it's going to be about popes.
We're going to vote a pope off the island. No, welcome, Sir Pope.
Yeah, welcome.
Hey, it's great to be here, guys. It's early, but but I'm awake, so that's a plus.
Well, that's better than the 3 hosts.
Well, it's fairly appropriate that you're in Atlanta, Georgia, aren't you?
Yes.
I find it very, very appropriate that The Walking Dead takes place in Georgia. So, kind of.
Yeah, sure
Why?
Well, because he's up early, and that's kind of like, the Walking Dead is kind of like how I feel in the morning at 6 o'clock, certainly.
Nice save. Nice save, because basically it wouldn't be an episode of Open Crowdsource if Fred didn't come right out the bat and insult our host.
Well, I wouldn't have had to save my joke unless you ruined it.
Children, please.
Sorry.
Yes, sorry, Dad.
Sorry, Mr. Clarkson.
Mr. Clarkson.
Mr. Clarkson. Why exactly are we here?
If I embrace you calling me Mr. Clarkson, maybe it'll go away. Well, we're here for a game and a show, but not a game show. You see? This is where 4 people sit down with each other and brainstorm the next blockbuster adventure game. And if you're listening to this as the head of a major label or as a struggling indie, you're free to take whatever ideas we come up with and run with them, because after all, this is Open Crowdsource. So the rules are simple. The Open Crowdsource machine, coded by our venerable Frederick Olsen, will randomly...
It'll probably crash, but thank you.
It will probably crash, but if it doesn't crash, what it's designed to do is to randomly select 4 cards, one containing a character, one containing a setting, one containing a task, and one containing a modifier. And then we have 30 minutes to sketch out a full-length adventure game from whatever it gives us. Some of the cards are plucked from classic adventure games and movies of yore, and some aren't. I thought, beginning of a new series, let's explain everything in graphic detail. At some point during the proceedings, the faceless jerk of the game's producer, we actually have a game producer on board today, so maybe faceless jerk wasn't the right thing to say, but we're not talking about you, Chris. The faceless... Exactly. The producer will chime in with a twist that we have to adhere to, and we have to change our design accordingly. Twists come in 2 flavours, major and minor, and we can fully expect the jerk to throw one of each of those at us. At the end of the half hour, a buzzer will sound, and we'll recap what we've designed. We record these live, so if there are people in the chat room, irc.freenode.net, #backseatdesigners, you can follow us there. You can also follow us on Twitter @BSDesigners, and you can get involved by suggesting plot points, additions, and of course, the most important thing of all, the title of our masterwork. Okay, Chris, have you got any idea what you've just signed up for?
Just a little. Because I was part of the Josh Mandel episode. So.
Well, we haven't hired anybody to lick your head for this episode, but...
no, that's a little disappointing.
Yeah.
Well,
we tried to get Scott Murphy to do it, but he wasn't up for the task.
I brought my robotic router here.
Ooh!
Oh!
I brought a pony.
Cardboard cutout. But
So
to be honest, I think the router is more impressive.
It is. But now we've got a router, a leprechaun, and a pony.
yeah, let me guess, you guys would rather replace me with router now, right?
Well,
Don't
it's
tempt us, don't
tempting.
tempt us.
I've got sticky tape.
He's British.
Right.
Is the
Okay.
machine working, Fred?
I believe it is, but let's find out.
That never gets old.
It never gets old, and then you see the pictures and you think, oh yeah, them.
There's a reason for the music, yes.
The Queen is still perfect. That is such a good picture.
So, just say the word, and I'll hit the begin button, and we'll be off.
Yeah, all right then. Let's go.
The word.
Niels Bohr, in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, must make the big score using a rigidly defined set of terms and conditions.
Right. Okay. Well,
Anyone.
Niels Bohr was a physician, so it goes without saying that he would adhere to a very strict code, namely that being the laws of physics. I don't know what.
Rather than physician.
Did I say physician? Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, we do need someone to lick faces, so
But what
which
do
is
you,
what a physician does, I'm told.
Yeah, but what do you make of that, Chris? How do you turn the physicist Niels Bohr into a compelling protagonist in a post-apocalyptic wasteland?
Well, in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, I would imagine that a physician would be very valuable. So
Probably. So that's actually one of the jokes of the game. He goes around telling people he's a physicist, and they go, "Oh, well, are you gonna have a look at my hemorrhoids?"
it's like, yeah, we got bigger problems going on now.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you live in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Food is scarce. There's radiation everywhere. People are growing extra limbs. Hey, I got a scratch in my ass.
Well,
Let's take a look at it.
Everything is relative.
What's great about it, though, is that he was a physicist, actually, and he studied atomic structure and quantum theory. So I think it would be great if actually he was the one that caused the atomic wasteland.
Oh, you totally stole my idea. I mean, my brain is in a completely different time zone, but I was just sitting there going, I have this. This is going to be great. And then
Well, he was working on the Manhattan Project, so I guess this could either be Niels Bohr is still alive, or it could be some sort of alternate history thing. I'm instantly thinking of what happened on the eve of the Trinity Project, right before they set off that bomb. The scientists present were actually taking bets because some of them were thinking that this thing would ignite the Earth's atmosphere and end all existence as we know it.
Well, maybe the reason he's using a rigidly defined set of terms and conditions is because he was dicking around and caused the nuclear holocaust.
Right.
And now he's like, no, I have to be very strict with my rules about how I'm going to solve this because my pissing around is what...
My fault.
Yeah.
Bad Niels Bohr. Bad Niels Bohr.
But maybe he doesn't realize he was the one that caused it. That's the big twist at the end. Like, he discovers he's the one who did it.
Yeah.
So
Like a
does
bigger
that
one.
happen? Does that happen on the way to making the big score? And we should probably define what that is. How do you make the big score in a
Oh, can I
post-apocalyptic
just interject
wasteland?
one thing?
Yes.
To get Niels Bohr in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, since none of us are physicists or physicians, we can just basically assume that a nuclear explosion does whatever the hell. Maybe it opened up a portal to an alternate dimension where everything has gone to shit, and Niels Bohr just suddenly finds himself. I don't know why he was, standing next to the bomb as it went off, but
Well, that's because he helped invent it. So it would actually, I don't know if he was actually there, but it would have been logical to. He was working on it.
okay.
National pride, yay!
Yeah.
So is the big score then restoring the timeline?
That could be.
That makes sense.
Getting Niels Bohr back to his normal dimension of not post-apocalyptic fuckery.
Because people had all these insane ideas about what nuclear blasts could cause, like that battleship that apparently got sent through time in this movie, and what have you.
Yep. So we've got Niels Bohr being transported via physicist magic to a post-apocalyptic wasteland, where maybe it wasn't even the bomb's fault. Maybe he just gets shipped up into a post-apocalyptic wasteland, maybe through time. Because the Manhattan Project, the boat thingy that got sent through time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. What do you think of that, Chris?
The boat thing that Troll's talking about.
Well, the whole no. Yeah, did you think the battleship actually went through a time to space?
Right.
No. What do you make of the plot we've got so far?
Because I love how it kind of sounded like that was true. No, I think we can make a great adventure game out of this. This is a good one. I think I really like the concept here. But the big score is the tricky part. We got to figure out what the big score is going to be.
Well, it rhymes with Niels Bohr, so that's probably the main reason why it's there.
Well, the big score is restoring the timeline. If he's been sent through time, he must return to his own time.
Okay. So the big, all right, and then using a rigidly defined set of terms and conditions.
He probably can't fuck up too much because he's in a parallel universe, so he might do shit that has repercussions. Once he realizes that this is basically a superstring theory where everything is interlocked, then he probably also realizes that I can't fuck up too much in this alternate post-apocalyptic wasteland, or it'll have repercussions all down the line.
Then he ends up messing up that post-apocalyptic wasteland and gets into another timeline, and so this just keeps going.
Until he realizes at the end he's got to make a decision and he's just got to live with it.
Right.
This could you because there's this play called Copenhagen, which has Heisenberg and Bohr in a discussion about the ethics in journalism. No, the ethics of the Manhattan Project, the nuclear bomb and stuff. Could he and I think Bohr was opposed to quantum theory. Could there be something with him realizing that if I apply quantum theory, then I can work this out?
This is getting heavy for an adventure game, isn't it?
This is getting heavy for Sunday morning.
Yeah, it is. I'm barely awake, and you're going off on quantum theory and string theory?
I'm sure with a bit of research, which would have to go beyond the half hour, we could come up with something something along those lines. But one of the things that we've been trying to get through in this series that perhaps we didn't do so much of in the last series was to get our plot kind of roughly sorted, but really go into the mechanics of the game. So where do you think this game would be? What kind of rooms would this game have? Kind of settings for the puzzles, and what kind of puzzles do you think would be involved in a game like this?
Well, maybe
basically Fallout.
Sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
Start the game out with him, causing it, or do you get to start the game out with him being sucked into another timeline? Or I guess we have to figure out where he's going to start at.
Yeah,
I like the idea
somewhere.
I like the idea of the first puzzle of the game is to fuck shit up, just basically ruin everything. And
the world is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting mechanic, because you could have an interactive intro cutscene where you don't just sit back and watch, you actually cause it, and that also means that you, the player, will have more of an emotional involvement because it was you who pushed the button. You did.
And it can act as a sort of a controls tutorial as well to get you to know how the mechanics of the game work.
Right.
It's basically how Half-Life starts anyway. I mean, you walk into the room,
That's
and
true.
it goes
That's
wrong,
true.
and then boom, you're someplace else.
That, in essence, was very adventure-like, wasn't it? It was certainly unlike any FPS at that point, because you started out without a weapon, and to my knowledge, you rarely did that in an FPS at that point in game history.
Right.
So, you cause the accident, and then you get transported into a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Of course, we're going to have NPCs to interact with, otherwise it's basically Loom. See what I did there?
NPCs in Loom.
Yeah, not in Boom. No conflict, no characters, no puzzles, and no chance of dying.
No interface.
Yeah, I forgot that one. So maybe we should just make Boom. No. Or we should call
Niels
it
Boom.
Niels Boom.
Niels Boom.
So okay. Alternate timeline.
That's actually a very good title. Sorry to interrupt you. Please
Oh,
go
it
on.
is. It actually is. with a game heavily reliant on knowledge of string theory and quantum theory and all this nonsense, and just have it called Niels Boom. Marketing is gonna love this.
It could start in his house. And this would explain why everything went wrong, because when he won the Nobel Prize, the Carlsberg Brewery directly linked a tap from their brewery into his house.
Really?
Yeah. So maybe,
that's the most Danish thing I've heard.
Yeah, that is how we celebrate scientific breakthroughs here in Denmark.
Here, have a beer.
You did
It all comes about to alcohol in the end. That's basically.
exactly. You did what now?
Viking
Well,
mentality.
I unlocked this theory about things existing on multiple planes of existence on a quantum level. That's great. I don't understand any of that shit. Have a beer.
That's how it works. Okay, so I'm thinking traditional 2D point and click fare, maybe even like Sierra fare. Just because if we're controlling a, shall we say, popular figure? What's the word I'm looking for? A real life person in a fictional setting. We should just go for caricature. We should just go for 256 color VGA standard icons, everything. Because the setting and the idea is weird enough. We don't need to bring in any bells and whistles on this one.
Yeah.
We could do that, or you could maybe have different tones depending of whether you're in the real world or the real 1940s, or whether you're in the alternative.
Oh, there's an idea. You get sent back and forth, perhaps.
You could do that. Maybe he invented time travel, and now he's trying to make the best of it. Maybe he realizes when going to the post-apocalyptic wasteland. At first he just thinks cool, but then ultimately realizes that shit, I caused this. Maybe he invents time travel prior to beginning to work on the Manhattan Project, and then goes way forward, realizing that fuck, this is shit. Using those exact words in Danish, of course.
So there's always that concept of he's created some kind of device that he can enable that causes him to shift between one timeline and another timeline, and so throughout the game you can shift between the real time and the wasteland time and see how things have changed between.
Oh, so it's kind of a Day of the Tentacle thing, where if you do something in the past, it affects the future.
Right.
So let's get this perfectly straight.
It could be done. I mean, that's been done, but it's
it's still a good idea.
It's a good game mechanic, though.
Let's get this perfectly straight. He's not going into an alternate dimension concurrent with the 1940s. He's going way into the future, where he has caused a major shitstorm.
Major cataclysmic event.
Yeah, and then you can sort of go back to the 1940s and try and distance yourself from the project or sabotage the nuclear bomb or something. So I'm thinking it's not like a button where you just push it and you go boom back to the 1940s and boom back into the future and such. The majority of the game takes place in the post-apocalyptic wasteland, where he must somehow find a way to get back and then sabotage the project, because getting sent into the future is an accident. It's not like he's carrying around this device that you can just push and then boop, it goes back again.
That makes sense, yeah.
Basically, I already did this game. It was called What's in the Safe.
Yeah, but that didn't start. I actually thought of that earlier. The talkie is coming out soon. You should all play it. I helped out on it. No, but you didn't feature Niels Bohr in that, so it's all good. But it does sound like this has more of a, obviously you applied humorous dialogue in that game, but this, given that we're using Niels Bohr, this probably has more of a humoristic edge to it. I'm thinking that we need to involve the Carlsberg beer tap thing.
Yeah.
This was actually what caused it.
Well, there's an episode of Family Guy where they keep trying to fiddle with the timeline to get everything back, and every time they go back to the original point, there's obviously another copy of Stewie and Brian. So every time you go back, maybe there's different copies of Niels Bohr, and they have to talk to each other to work out between them what they're supposed to do.
Won't we run into one of those things where two identical bodies cannot occupy the same space, or the world explodes?
But what if they could? What if that's one of the major twists of this game? Because everyone's done that in time travel fiction. But what if Niels Bohr realizes that there is actually no consequences of him trying to work out the puzzles with himself? What if the post-apocalyptic wasteland is a wasteland to such a degree that all life has been eradicated, save for all the Niels Bohrs running around interacting with each other?
Sorry, that kills a joke I had, which was that once you get into the post-apocalyptic wasteland and you walk around introducing yourself to all the NPCs who have no idea who you are, the running joke is that they think you're a physician, but you really are a physicist.
Yeah. Well, that just becomes surreal if it's himself walking around.
Yeah,
there.
it does, doesn't it? But anyway, have you guys seen Time Cop? You really shouldn't, but
Been a while.
when two copies of each other meet, oh dear, they sort of disintegrate because two bodies can't occupy the same space. There's another science fiction movie where if two bodies meet each other face to face, it creates a time loop where they just stand around and chatter at each other and faces go blank and heart race and everything. So the whole idea of creating a new copy of Niels Bohr every time you go back, we have to research that one, because as far as I know,
how the fuck are you gonna research something like that?
Because there's a lot of time travel fiction of what would happen.
It's not real. Well, actually, I think too much time travel fiction goes by a set of, ironically, a rigidly defined set of terms and conditions, because
it works out.
Well, we sort of have to do that. I mean,
maybe he has to go back and kill himself.
Oh, we have a twist.
Sean Connery will endorse this under the right circumstances. Ensure this game appeals to Scottish nationalists.
So it's post-apocalyptic Scotland.
There we go.
What, so basically Glasgow? Hey!
Why would he be in... first of all, what's Sean Connery doing in this? And second, why would he go to Scotland?
Well, Sean Connery, unfortunately, is suffering from dementia, but that does answer the question why he would want to associate himself with this. Too dark. Sorry.
God,
the whole project with the atomicness and such. Where did he actually do that? Because now we have to get him to Scotland for some contrived reason.
In Los Alamos, Mexico, I think it was. New Mexico, wasn't it? They had a base set up there.
We have an American with us. You must know.
What's that? The Manhattan Project?
Yeah.
Wasn't actually in Manhattan, was it?
No.
Everyone's
Mexico, somewhere in New Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. Which is not Scotland.
Well, Rudolf Hess fled to Scotland, so Scotland does have a role during the war. Our current nuclear subfleet is held in Scotland. That's where our nuclear defence arsenal is, the British nuclear defence arsenal. So I mean, he could go to future Scotland for some reason,
or he could just when he goes into the future, a group of Scotsmen will approach him and say that Scotland is completely eradicated because of all the British nuclear arsenal, and that's why we must vote yes to secede from
If
the
people
UK.
had only voted yes, this would never have happened.
Yeah, exactly. He meets this
Maybe
angry
this is,
Scotsman.
This is Highlander theme, and
Yeah.
It is.
we're in the post-apocalyptic future is everybody's immortal, and you have to cut their heads off. That might be Sean Connery.
I would just love the opportunity to cut Sean Connery's head off.
Hey, maybe all the NPCs are Sean Connery.
Highwayman!
Only if we make this a talkie. Show your Niels Bohr, you say.
I have a hemorrhoid. Could you take a look at it? I'm not that kind of physicist.
Oh, so you're a physician.
Okay, so maybe Niels Bohr's sidekick in the future is a Scottish nationalist who is really
Who is voiced
angry.
by Sean Connery.
Who is voiced by Sean Connery, and who is angry that the British nuclear arsenal has completely wiped out Scotland here in the future.
And Niels Bohr feels responsible because he was, to begin with, historically partly responsible, at least for. He probably made some breakthrough on which the Manhattan Project depended, and he knows that.
So, what do you have to do to get back to the 1940s and sabotage your own project?
Got to be some kind of a twist. Like I said, got to kill himself or something.
Or just enter a comma in the calculations so that the bomb doesn't go off. Just enter a wrong digit somewhere in the calculations.
Yeah. That sounds like a really, really horrid endgame Tesla effect-like puzzle where you're just mucking about with stuff without realizing what's going to happen.
How about the first future he goes into? He realizes that 2 nuclear bombs were dropped on Japan, and this was horrible. Millions of people were affected, and he can't live with the fact that he helped create a bomb that did that. So he stops the bombs being dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, but in doing so, the bomb was invented anyway, and nobody had that fear because of that happening. And so there was a post-apocalyptic wasteland because the USSR and the Americans bombed the crap out of each other. So he tries so many different alternative futures where bombs are never dropped, but he realizes the only way that he can have any kind of livable future is to actually
bomb Japan,
and he can't live with himself that he's done that.
And then, of course, he also, just for shits and giggles, goes back to Scotland around this time and rigs up the election so it's a yes.
Yeah.
And that is how we make it appeal to Scottish nationalists.
Now, speaking of nationalists, the Japanese are notoriously unhappy with the whole Nagasaki and Hiroshima thing, so making a game where it turns out that you have... Sorry? Yeah, oddly enough.
Surprisingly enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
about it.
But who can blame him?
Well, that's the thing. He can blame him, and he realizes that what he's done is still terrible. It's just the least terrible, but still very, very terrible, and he can't really reconcile that with himself.
So in the end, he realizes that... okay, so if every time he comes back to the 1940s, there's a duplicate of him, eventually he'll just have to talk them into... Or he'll have to kill them and then kill himself to prevent him from sabotaging the project.
Yeah.
Mm. And then all the different Niels Bohrs go to Scotland and vote yes.
We've already settled the whole Scotland thing. He just meets Sean Connery in the future, and we put in this pro-secede message.
I'm like imagining this cutscene where, like an old Doctor Who and Simpsons with Niels Bohr's face and then heads floating around him repeating lines from the game. You have to ensure Japan gets bombed. Vote yes. You have to ensure they bomb Japan. Vote yes.
For Scotland. Bomb Japan for Scotland. This is
bagpipes.
This is why they want to be independent.
Yes, this is exactly why. Sorry. I love Scotland. I love haggis. So anyway, now we have a bearing on the plot. Do you think at this point, Chris, that you've consumed enough coffee to recap for us how you see what we've concocted, at least how you see it in your mind.
I'll try.
Go ahead.
Did we confirm where Niels Bohr starts out? He starts out at his house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With his tapped out beer that's been tapped into his house.
Yeah.
He then. What causes him to get stuck in the timeline, though? Did we confirm that?
Well, he has to go to New Mexico to
Right, he
be
goes to New
near the
Mexico.
bomb.
Okay. Invents the help invents the atomic bomb. But what causes him to get sucked into the timeline? Did we?
Probably the standing too close to the Trinity blast or something.
Okay.
While inebriated from the, I'm imagining he's always pissed. When he's not at his home, he's just bringing bottles that he tapped himself.
So he's not gonna just discover this is all in his head, right? Like he's not just knocked out and then he wakes up and it's all a dream, right? This is legit, really happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not do the dream thing.
No,
it's really happening.
That route.
Okay, so let's try and put this in perspective. Okay, starts out because again I'm confused with the timeline. Did Carlsberg pump beer into his house after he helped with the bomb, or was that before?
No, he won the Nobel Prize in 22.
Oh, so he's had a stash of free beers for about 20 years.
Okay, cool. So he starts
his
out.
His liver is fucked.
Yeah. Starts out in his house with a major hangover and gets a call and says, you have to come to New Mexico. The project is almost to completion, and he runs off to New Mexico. This all happens in a cutscene. And then when you get to New Mexico, that's when the game actually starts, and you have to go in and Half-Life the thingamajig, and then boom, you wake up somewhere else.
You could have done a whole Gold Rush style game there, where you had to actually make it to New Mexico, and you could travel by boat, or you could.
You connected the wrong wires. You die of the flu.
Right.
He ended up leaving his Carlsberg house because he got word that the Germans were about to arrest him.
Really? Did that actually happen, or did you just make that up?
No, yeah, that actually happened. He'd been helping people flee the Nazis, so in '43 he had to leave, and that's when he went to America, and that's when he became involved with the Manhattan Project.
Well, I guess we can fuck up history a tiny little bit.
A little. Well, we're going to be doing a lot of that.
Away from the Germans.
Yeah, while pissed.
That would actually be that would be a good starting point. I mean, just stress the player out. You have, 30 minutes before the Germans come to arrest you.
And he's been drinking large amounts of alcohol, so when you tell the character to go left, he goes right. And when you tell him to go right, he goes left.
There's a whole soliloquy about how he really, really hates having to leave his house because free beer.
You Germans aren't gonna tell me what to do.
We need a controversy to sell this game. You lads are Danish. Make the Prophet the main villain.
Oh, we're off to a good start, aren't we?
We've already insulted the Scotsman. We've already insulted the Japanese. Now we're going to insult every single Muslim out there. Right.
I was actually thinking we needed an antagonist to make this game.
Maybe. We know there are a couple of Niels Bohr copies around, and the prospect of time travel, as in What's in the Safe, is very, very tempting. And in What's in the Safe, the guy wants to be the ruler of the world. Maybe Niels Bohr goes way back into time, travels to the Middle East, and becomes the prophet.
Or he could just be the prophet of doom. We could take this a little bit more in an abstract sense.
Yeah.
He foretells the end of times.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And then he's still pissed, of course, so he just, completely fucks up. Well, I don't know. If you don't eat any bacon, I think we're gonna be fine.
I do like the idea of the protagonist also being the antagonist, like a different copy of him has gone absolutely bonkers.
Well, at one point, he could. The reason that he fled was because he got tipped off that the Germans were about to arrest him. Maybe in one of the situations, he makes it so that he never gets that tip off, and the Germans arrest him, and then that changes the timeline in a way that he doesn't like. So he has to then change it again. And
Like maybe originally he wanted to bomb the Germans, and it ended up being Hiroshima instead.
Actually, that was what happened, and that was why it was dropped on the Japanese, because I think part of the reason is that shit, we've spent all this money, Germany has capitulated. There's still something going on in the Pacific. Why don't we? They won't surrender. Why don't we show them?
Yeah, why don't we do that? Pearl Harbor is perfectly safe. Oh god.
But it would have dropped on Berlin originally, I think.
I think we have a sufficient amount of controversy to sell the game already, because the end game is bomb Japan. So I don't think, and the idea of a prophet as the main villain. All right, it's Niels Bohr in the future. He's gone mad. He's the prophet. Because apparently there's a timeline that you don't experience as the player yourself, where Niels Bohr remained in the future, didn't meet Sean Connery. This is sounding really weird when I say it out loud. But he stayed there and went mad and didn't come back.
I guess that could happen, yeah.
So the antagonist is himself. Well, it already is himself.
I think we have sufficient blocks of the plot enough to recap that. So with 1 minute left to go, do we want to get more into mechanics and gameplay? We've established it's like a side-scrolling type, point-and-click type thing, like Sierra style.
Yeah, and I think with point-and-click Sierra style, maybe multiple endings, so there's no right ending. There's obviously an ending which accords with how things actually happened. But maybe there are.
You want to get into multiple endings with 40 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, we're not going to get into what they actually are, no, but.
But we want them, which is always a good thing. You're dealing with alternate timelines. Chris, do you have anything to add gameplay-wise where you think we need to do this?
Well, I think we could have a lot of fun with the touch and smell icons from Space Quest.
Oh yes. We're basically going to use the Space Quest for interface.
Yeah, probably are.
Pretty much.
Guess why?
There has to be a drink icon as well, because he's always busting for a beer.
Yeah.
Okay, with 7 seconds left, we've got an amazing icon interface, and we've got Niels Bohr in the future.
Well, that was an appropriate noise.
So let's try to recap what we've come up with.
The pony wants to know.
Yeah. Pony wants to know. You were already going, Chris, actually. Do you want to continue recapping this horrendous game that we've designed to insult everyone?
Yeah, so Niels Bohr is at his house. He's been drinking. The Germans are coming to get him. He needs to travel to New Mexico to be part of the Manhattan Project, where he is going to help blow up Germany, because he hates Germans. And apparently the Americans use it to bomb Hiroshima, which pisses him off. During an explosion from Trinity, he gets sucked into an alternate timeline. Is that right? Anyway.
Yeah, I think at this point it's up for grabs.
But he also goes far into the past and becomes the prophet who ends up being the antagonist of the game. In the future, the protagonist is himself as well, and the goal is to somehow stop all of this from occurring. We're going to use the old 2D style, Sierra style engine for this, with touch and smell icons and a drink icon. And oh yeah, I forgot, Scotland comes into play here too.
Yeah.
I think we agreed that all the Niels Bohrs were gonna vote, which was there's so many of them that they were gonna vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. He meets a Scottish person in the future who laments at great length about how the British nuclear arsenal in Scotland apparently exploded sometime in the future and eradicated all life on Scotland.
Right.
This is like, you know what, traditionally what you would have here is a fetch quest. What we have is multiple copies of a Danish physicist offsetting the vote for Scottish independence.
You know,
the whole point was so we could get funding from Sean Connery, apparently.
Yeah.
So we just kind of threw that mechanic in there.
I mean, I drank a fuck ton of beer last night, and I'm barely awake at this point, and we're already into alternate timelines, Scottish independence, bombing Japan,
Quantum theory.
quantum theory.
Don't go off creating any nuclear bombs now, trolls.
I'll try not to. Carlsberg, thankfully, has not pumped free beer into my house. I prefer Tuborg anyway.
Thankfully.
That could go so wrong. I do think we're onto something good here, though.
It's an interesting concept.
We do need to sort of sit down and work out different timelines, because we never got into the specifics about, going forward, going backward. How does he? Because one version of him apparently goes way too far back and then becomes the prophet and somehow ends up being the antagonist. We never really sorted out the timeline here, but a sit down and maybe a beer would fix that. Gareth
is being a historian here, so I just have to lock the screen. So that's the final line of the game, ladies and gentlemen.
It's the first and last line of the game.
I love bookending stuff. So, Chris, what do you make of this? Would you set up a Kickstarter for something like this?
Man, I don't know if I would ever do another Kickstarter in my entire life, to be honest.
Provided that this SpaceVenture thing had not shaved off 10 years of your lifespan, would you be ready to do it?
Right. Yeah. Yes. I think so. I think for sure. Hey, with Sean Connery helping back, I mean that's.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love the idea of a Kickstarter video. I'm Sean Connery. I'm reading this off cue card.
I endorse this video.
You might remember me as the voice of Deckard Cain in Diablo 2.
Aren't you at the point yet, Chris, where you can just outsource doing a Kickstarter like PCJ or something? Just get him to do everything.
Hey, there you go. Just pile it all on PCJ. He's a workhorse.
PCJ, today we're doing a game about Niels Bohr in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Get to work. Oh.
He'd probably have it knocked out in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, he probably will.
It's kind of rough around the edges, guys, but it mostly works, I think.
So we do have a good project going on. We all know what the Guys from Andromeda LLC's next project is going to be. It's going to insult everyone. Mm-hmm. Germans, Japanese, Danish physicists.
The Scots.
The Scots.
We also have a title for it, Niels Boom.
Yeah, it's a good one. We should get to work on promo graphics. I mean, Mark Crow can spare a few minutes, can he?
Yeah, we should, Kevin.
Oh yeah. Oh, we've got our own pixel artist.
Yeah, whenever he feels like it, we don't want to pressure him.
Would we go for like a Loom type box art, or kind of like Boom from Space Quest 4? Or?
Yeah. I guess we would. I mean, it's already an open secret that we're trying to secure funding from you guys. So anything we can do to brown nose a bit.
Sure. Right.
Well, I think having insulted everybody, it's probably time.
And this is only the first episode. It's going to be way worse.
Yeah. This is a high point, unfortunately, for everybody. So that is it for Open Crowdsource for this episode. Before everybody goes, a big thank you to Michael Consul, who has very generously donated to the Backseat Designers Patreon Fund. So thank you, Michael, and thank you for the photographs of you and your mates watching the show at home.
That was brilliant.
Next week we have Jacob Janerka or Jacob Janerka, not sure which one.
He's Australian.
Creator of the game Paradigm. That will kick off on Sunday afternoon. If you check the YouTube page, it will give you the time in your local time zone, and not even.
And this time it'll be correct.
Yeah, this time it'll be correct. So, Chris, thank you very much for coming along, especially at such an early hour. And I know that you have things that you want to plug at this point, and they're actually good. So go for it.
Well, yeah. So you guys probably know we just recently from Guys from Andromeda came out with a game called Cluckjaeger, well, it's a Cluckjaeger minigame that is part of SpaceVenture, the game we kickstarted about 3 years ago, and the game is going to come out on Steam on Monday, so be on the lookout. It's going to sell for just $2.99. So for a couple of bucks, you can buy the game. It's bound to be to be a little bit fun for you guys, maybe. Actually, it's a horror game, but the good news is we've added a feature in it that's it's called Tame Mode, where you don't have to worry about jump scares. So if you're not into the whole mutated chickens jumping up on your screen stuff, you can enjoy a little kitten that pops up on the screen and meows at you. Sweet, and it plays some fun little music, and you don't have to worry about being scared. And it's $2.99, so
help fund Scott Murphy's beer habit. Help get Carlsberg pump free beer into Scott Murphy's house.
What I love about this mini game is it sounds like something the machine sort of dredged up. Mutant chickens on in an abandoned factory. Kill the protagonist.
Well, actually, that's kind of been the Cluckjaeger story from the beginning. Was that when the original game design came about, like, what was Cluckjaeger going to be about? And we didn't really have a good game mechanic for it, and it seemed like the Five Nights at Freddy was a great way to the mechanics in Five Nights at Freddy was a great way to make that happen. It was always going to be in a factory. It was always going to have mutant chickens, and then we've also got Chickzilla, which is this big, huge baby mutant chick that cracks open in this big, huge egg, and he's walking around causing destruction. And so we just used the Five Nights at Freddy mechanic for that, and we had a lot of fun with it. But
it works.
Yeah, it does. It does kind of sound like there was some crack involved or something in coming up with that. But,
no, Craig wouldn't have done it. The names of these mutant chickens are simply phenomenal. I busted a gut the first time I saw salmonella written on the side of the chicken.
Yeah, thyroid.
But of course, none of us do drugs.
No. But we do ponies.
But yeah, the game, we're excited about it. Comes out Monday. Like I said, there's some fun Easter eggs in there. Like we got Josh Mandel singing his techno babble song and all of that. There's just
that's in there.
You gotta find them. But yeah, that's mainly what I want to plug. And of course, you can always pre-order SpaceVenture if you're interested in that. You go to guysfromandromeda.com and do that. And November 30th, 2016 is the date.
Yes!
Yay!
Really, really pushing hard to get this thing done by then. So
That's excellent news that we've got a release date.
Yep.
Yeah.
We also have a give Scott Murphy a beer button on the homepage.
And we're so looking forward to playing the game. I think I can say for all of us.
Yeah. No, I am too. I've burned out playing the portions that we've done so far, but it's going to be great to kind of have it all, working and stuck together and be able to play straight through it, and not have to be playing different small scenes and all of that. But it's going to be a blast. It's great. The game design, the humor that's already in there right now is fantastic, and it's only going to get better, I think. So.
Awesome.
November 30th.
November 30th, 2016.
Yep. 2016.
Scotland.
Have you got a Twitter or a Facebook or a website?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at I'm at the Chris Pope, and then same for Facebook, facebook.com/thechrispope. And you can friend me there. I'll definitely accept your friend requests, as long as you're not Sean Connery. And Niels Bohr from the future.
Careful, that guy's shifty.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Nice.
Excellent. Okay, so next week, Jacob Janerka from the game Paradigm, and you can find that show, this show, and all of the details about all the other shows on backseatdesigners.com. If you're enjoying what we're doing, what's wrong with you? But if you are enjoying what we're doing, you can download the home edition of the Open Crowdsource Machine, so you can play this game which is not a game and not a show, but a game show. You can do that all at home. You can play it for yourself and make your own cards and come up with your own crazy plot
Lose all your friends.
devices. And all of the details are on our site with our Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and most importantly, all the links so that you can subscribe to the show, which will come through to you in video or audio format, depending on what it is that floats your boat. So say goodbye, Fred.
Goodbye.
And say goodbye, Trolls.
Pony.
Pony indeed. It's Pony from me too. I'll see you next week.